Welcome to the Divorce Diaries podcast. One man's anonymous and live account of if he should get a divorce or stay married. He's been cheated on, and he's cheated. Protecting the innocent with changed voice patterns, the omission of names, ages, and genders. His authentic journey and account of the daily events of his marriage are helping him sort out his feelings and not get lost in the ups or the downs. New episodes are released daily. Welcome to the Divorce Diaries podcast. Entire seasons are released on Patreon weeks before anywhere else at Divorce Diaries Podcast Patreon page. Link in description. Now for today's episode.
Merry Christmas, Divorce Diaries listeners. Thanks so much. As I'm recording this is about 12:30 on Christmas Day, 2021. I'm post a workout right now, and I'm walking around the place that I live, looking over at a table that is covered with a red tablecloth, where some people are obviously going to have a nice Christmas Day get-together here in the clubhouse. And I am alone right now. I've been alone all day, which has been okay. I got a chance to see my youngest yesterday. She spent the night after she bailed on me for a trip to see the Rockefeller Center tree that I mentioned before in the previous recording. I'm having a tough time as she's continuing to be sort of manipulated by other members of her family that she lives with. Divorce is really hard on everyone. And I'm going to start this by being empathetic to everyone that's involved. Divorce is very, very difficult. It's difficult for the children because the children are being split up from their parents. It's difficult because visitation and things like that need to be worked out, and there's a less time with parents, and both parents love the children, but both parents aren't necessarily equally as good for the children, and that's a fact that most of us need to look at and totally embrace. Both parents aren't equally as good for the children. And I used to have a really toxic sort of perspective and rule that said a lot of, chauvinistic comment coming. Most moms are great for the kids, and it starts to probably go down as you go past the age of 3. As you go past the age of 3, kids they encounter a good bit more problems, and they need a lot more problem-solving skills and a lot more planning and forecasting for their lives moving forward. And the general configuration, I'll say, if I were to look at men and women as sort of robots, I don't want to, I know that we're human, but the general configuration is a woman is typically a bit more gentle, while a man may be a bit more harsh or direct, because he's a bit more, let's say, direct, and he finds the processing of emotions as an inefficient waste of time, whereas a woman may find the process of emotions a very valuable use of time, because that's where you can actually figure out some problems. And it is valuable to sort of process your emotions and stay with those. It's really good. Trust me, I know, as I'm going through my therapeutic journey of self-healing and discovery, I totally understand that the importance of feeling your emotions, processing your emotions, and communicating those emotions is key to coming up with solutions to the problems in your life. Now, the thing is with children, if the child falls down when they're 2, the best thing for you to do, because all they know is they're feeling pain and they're wailing and they need some sort of soothing, you run over and you pick them up and you begin to soothe them so they can have 2 competing emotions and They'll have their one emotion, singular, with pain and hurt. Ow, 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 wham, wham, they're crying. And the other emotion is my back is being rubbed. I'm hearing my mother or my father's soothing voice, and I'm being kissed on my cheek and forehead, and my back is being rubbed. There are so many soothing emotions that are coming through that I've got to process in my brain. Now I've got two emotions, the pain, ouch, and that's acute, and it's also going to fade, the pain. And the soothing can continue as long as the parent or whoever picks up the kid after they've fallen, as long as they continue it, you're going to feel the soothing. Pain goes down, soothing stays constant. Pain goes down, soothing stays constant. Now the 2-year-old is starting to cry less because they're hurting more, but they're feeling the soothing sounds and feelings being supplied by their mom or dad. That's great. The kid gets to be 8. Same thing, but the soothing nature, the kid falls, hurts themselves, falls off their bike, really bad spill, and they've got a broken ankle. Rubbing them and soothing them actually is not the prescription for that at that time. You're going to want to hold their hand and soothe as best you can while they're in the back of the ambulance or the back of your car headed to the hospital to get their broken ankle fixed. But it's very different in the approach with the soothing. And go back to the 2-year-old, Mama, I fell and hurt my finger. And you say, oh, it still hurts, honey. And you go over and you give it a kiss and they say, thanks, or whatever. And they run off and they continue to play. They're not really hurting. They're just they're thinking about it, and they're thinking about that trauma from that fall. And they're like, hey, I'm coming back to the well of emotional assistance. Can you help me out and soothe me? Yep, I can. Here's a kiss. It doesn't mean anything. Doesn't actually help, but it supplies that dopamine release that the 2-year-old needs. And you can help the 8-year-old after their ankle is fixed and they're in the cast and their foot is up on the bed. You soothe them by coming over to do the thing that they need, which is, hey, can I get you some juice? How's your pain doing? I'm here for you, honey. I love you. Here's your video game controller. Keep enjoying playing your video games and you'll be healed up before you know it. You're supplying them with some verbal Band-Aids and some acts of service bandages as well. But when you get to the more complex problems of how do I process this divorce, you can't soothe a child through that. You can try, which is happening to my children, pacifying them. They've been purchased a puppy only months after they just got rid of another dog by my ex. That soothing attempt is great, but that could also be something that is detrimental because you're trying to, which on the one hand you could appreciate, you're trying to do things that can help them maybe take their mind off of the divorce. So I'll get you a puppy, but the divorce is still happening. There are things that are still going on, and to be frank, there's a lot of lies and dishonesty that's been put out there for my children to absorb, and now they've got to process that. So they've got a puppy, and it's like, yeah, I'm taking my mind off of it, but oh yeah, right, one of my parents lies on the other to me about it. So they're at this weird place where they've got to just suppress it. Nope. I'm going to choose to believe that what my parent is saying to me is right and accurate, and I'm no longer interested in the truth because, honestly speaking, the truth just hurts. And if you go back to the example of falling off of your bike, the kids, they're hurting. Those are physical things, and those are some of the easiest things to solve and fix and triangulate because everything's got a shelf life. Eventually you will heal from that physical trauma and it's behind you, and you can talk about that pain. Oh, I remember when I fell off of my bike, and I can look back, oh yeah, my mom did this or my dad did that, and that really helped me through that difficult time of that physical pain that I had and that I felt. But now, when you've got that emotional pain, that pain of someone lying to you or betraying you or lying about someone that also loves you, like your spouse. It's horribly, horribly toxic. It's a terrible thing for a child to have to stomach and deal with and worry about, because they have to now accept these really dark and horrible truths, that not only that their parents are flawed, because that's okay. Understanding that your parent is flawed and they make mistakes, those things are okay, and you should process that. And the sooner a child understands that mom and dad aren't perfect, that's good. But then when you begin to understand that the character of a parent is that of a consistent liar or a consistent omitter or a consistent manipulator, because I've been accused of that. I've been gaslit with that. I'm not a manipulator because, let me rephrase. I have manipulated, but I was not trying to manipulate. I was not trying to strategically put someone on my side or pit someone against someone else. I would tell truths, even throwing myself under the bus. Like, there was a very bad act that I did, and when confronted, I'm like, yes, I did that. If I was a manipulator, I would say, no, I didn't, or I did it because. And I've never done either of those things. I took it right on the chin. I did this. I was a piece of shit for doing it. I'm not even going to use the fact that, did I overdrink? Yes. Did that help? Yes. But that doesn't matter. I should not have overdrank. I should not have responded in that way. I acted poorly, and it is no one's fault that I did what I did except me. If you want to call that manipulation, that's fine. If you want to call it, that's real, then okay. But I remember that situation very vividly. My ex, because we're about 6 months ago, actually, oh my gosh, almost to the day, where something really not good, really bad happened. But to this day, my wife has never said, I did do this. Still, this shouldn't have happened to me. This bad act. My husband was still sort of a piece of shit for doing that day, but she didn't. She just leaves out everything that she's ever done. So now what my children have to face is, did both people behave badly? Maybe that's their determination. They can make that call, but that's neither here nor there. But at the end of it, my dad was honest about the trauma he caused, and my mom did not tell us the entire story. One of those things, or both of those things, those traumas will last a long time. But I don't know. I guess time will tell when people value things, because I know that my youngest will say things to me like, wow, you did that? That's something you've been doing? Like, I just got my wife an iPad. I got her an iPad. I mean, we are on the outs. So I'm not getting married. I'm not staying married to my wife. We should have never gotten married. I understand the person that she is now. Extremely toxic, extremely manipulative, extremely dark, and she's consistently lying and misdirecting her own faults onto other people. I would say at this point, my wife has textbook narcissistic personality disorder. Now, I do not diagnose anything. Who the fuck am I? I'm just a guy. But looking at the DSM-9 9 characteristics of narcissistic personality disorder, my wife fits the bill for most of those. And if you match 5 of them, that's it. Me, I'm a narcissist. I understand that now. I understand what a narcissist means. But I only brush up against lightly from what I have seen and the therapeutic advice that I've got from my therapist, looking at the DSM-5, the 9 characteristics, I lightly brush up against about 3 of them. So I'm nowhere close to having the narcissistic personality disorder. Hence me even saying this podcast, hence me being honest, hence me saying, hey, yes, I did this thing. And when people say, hey, you did that, I don't gaslight them in reverse. I don't say, well, no, you're misremembering. No, I'll say, do you remember saying that before I said that thing? And the person, that's when I'll get gaslit, because I've grown up with, my mom was 100% a narcissist. I'm sorry. You know what? Yes, my mom's a narcissist because I believe we all are narcissists. But did my mom have narcissistic personality disorder? I don't really know, because I've got to sit with the 9 things again to look at and consider my mom to see if she had what I would say, which I'm not qualified to even say, if I feel that she had narcissistic personality disorder. The level of dishonesty in my mother is this sort of the same thing. And quick side note, I'll talk a little bit about women right now. There's several knee-jerk reactions which contribute to the dishonesty that seems to be inherent in most women. Hey, how many sexual partners have you had? There is a good chance the number will not be given, or the number will be given very low. There is an inherent shame that women seem to have if their body count, quote unquote, their sexual body count, sexual partner count, is what society or men or they themselves might deem as high. You ask a woman, hey, how old are you? It's a trope, and it's said often. You never ask a woman her age. Oh, because there's something there where we don't want to acknowledge the facts of your age, or there's some discomfort. And I think that women understand their value is in how they are perceived, both sexually, beauty-wise, fertility-wise, which all of those things, fertility ties to age. Beauty also ties to age, and the integrity ties to, what would integrity tie to? I don't really know, but that's just the woman maybe not wanting to tell her body count because she wants to be looked at as a woman of quote unquote integrity. She feels maybe there's self-judgment, or maybe it's the judgment that she feels men are going to judge her by, because we do. Let's be fair. A man wants a woman that doesn't have a past, while a woman wants a man that has a future. That's typically how we operate. So I totally understand why my wife would lie about her bad behavior. She doesn't want to be outed, so to speak. She doesn't want the world or her children or even me to know exactly who she is. And I'm not mad. I'm not putting her on the cross, and I'm not holding her in contempt. There is no court that I have or can hold. I'm not the judge, jury, and executioner. All I know is we've been together for over 2 decades. I know her very, very well. I know the bones that she has. I know where they're buried, but not all of them. And I know that. I'm not trying to say, oh, I know her and I know everything she's ever done. Nope. I just know the things she's done and said to me, the things she's done and said to our children, the things she's done and said behind their backs, the things she's done and said behind the backs of her other family members. I know how dark she is. And then when I stopped covering for her, protecting her, and making excuses for her, and talking to the kids and telling them, well, wow, if you know half the story, well, I may as well tell you the other half. And how come you don't know the other half? It doesn't matter, the other half, Dad. It doesn't matter. You are a toxic person. But, okay, I get that, and I get your reaction, and I accept it. Do you think or feel anything about the fact that your mom didn't tell you all that she did that day? Do you feel anything that your mom didn't fully tell you the story? How does that make you feel? To be able to cleanly sort of write off your dad, but you don't even seem to be concerned that your mom lied to you by not telling you the entire story. She's not, as my therapist says all the time, you can't necessarily say she's a liar because you don't know. But yes, she does omit, and your wife is not forthcoming. And it's like, okay, I accept that. That's true. That's the fairest statement. There's information that my wife has, and she is not forthcoming with information, which is why you had to dig and find out that your wife was cheating on you, that you had to go to great lengths to discover these things, that you guys sat in therapy sessions for so long, and she knew she had a boyfriend at the time, but she wouldn't cop to it. She wouldn't own it. These things exist in my wife, but they're not exclusive to her. They exist in a lot of people, but specifically, sexist comment coming, they exist in women a lot. Yeah, you're doing these really cruddy things to people, and you're talking behind people's back. You're doing all of these quote unquote mean girl things, but then you paint the picture of being a victim. Words like abuse may be thrown around. I had to. Toxic relationship. Toxic masculinity. And it becomes really difficult to go against that because, after all, women are soft. They're demure. They are, and I personally believe, should be a part of the most protected class of citizens. I fully subscribe to the Titanic principle. This boat is sinking. Men stay on board, women and children in the life raft first. Women and children need to be protected. Men are expendable, and that's okay. Sperm is very, very cheap. Eggs are very, very expensive. We need women to continue the human race. Yes, one guy can take care of about 20 women biologically with his seed. Women have their 9 months of gestation, and then they've got to take care of the cubs. Then there's like a year before they can get pregnant again. A year have the baby, and then a few months later their bodies are pretty much ready to have another one. But that's how it goes. So it is in a woman's best interest to have a limited amount of sexual partners. And that's just our biology. But now, yes, we do have birth control and things like that. So a woman doesn't necessarily have to protect her chastity or have a man protect her chastity. A woman now can do whatever she wants, which is a good thing. But there is a strong biological desire to still omit and be covert about the things that make her less desirable to men and or society. So there is an incentive to lie. There's an incentive to, if you cheated on your husband, like I've been cheated on, there's an incentive for you to say, I did it because you weren't there for me. I'm not going to take full accountability for my decision, but I definitely want you to take full accountability for yours. You cheated on me, you're a dog, you didn't value me, you're a horrible man. But I cheated on you. I was having a difficult time. I needed someone to comfort me. Hey, if that's the double standard that the world works, that's okay. I'm not belly aching about that anymore, and I hope you can tell. From my first diary entries, there were nothing but toxic rants of me yelling into this exact same microphone. I don't even know why it still works. I feel like I had been gripping it so tightly, white knuckling my life with such pain and hurt that I was discovering that I married someone that has been dishonest from the beginning. Not in all things. All of our times weren't bad. I will never say anything like that. We did have some good times. Most every bad time that we had and experienced was surrounding a lie from one or both of us. And most of the lies were surrounding things that my wife did or didn't do or left out. The falling out from most every relationship in our lives, which is unfortunate, my wife has been at the center of each fractured relationship. I'm at the center of a lot of them as well, but she's at the center of most of them. That's not me saying she is to blame for our stuff, because I don't know. I don't know what sort of environment this is me, even being a dumbass now. I'm going to say, I don't know how my bad behavior at times may have contributed to my wife reacting a certain way. I hearken back to her very bad financial decision to begin to put our mortgage payments on credit cards because we were a bit short, I guess, for a couple of months. Long story short, she didn't tell me that we were short, but she just started putting mortgage payments on credit cards. Now, you might say, why would she do that? Well, she could have done that, and that could have been my fault, the reason. Me. I'm the reason. Here's why. I was so insecure about watching our bank account balance dwindle down to zero every month because we were feverishly close to making ends meet. We only had about $100 to $200 of disposable income every month, and me watching that was a depiction of what I felt was my inadequacy as a man. My ego was hit. I made pretty much exactly the right amount of money to sustain our family. I didn't have a surplus. I didn't have a pile of disposable income. We weren't taking vacations. We were a young, broke couple, and the entire financial security of the family was on my shoulders. And I didn't want to watch what I felt was the Titanic going right into the iceberg every month. And at the very last minute, we turned right before we hit the iceberg when I got another paycheck. I hated that. Absolutely hated it. So knowing that, I just put all of the money into a bank account, and my wife paid all of the bills very responsibly for maybe a year and a half, maybe close to 2. I'm not really sure because I forget now. And I just felt good. But somewhere along the way, we spent a little bit much, and my wife just she felt she had to put the mortgage payment on a credit card. And that went into another month. And I believe it was maybe 4, 6, 7 months, something like that, where she charged so many mortgage payments on credit cards that the minimum payments exceeded the disposable income that we had monthly. So eventually she had to tell me that, hey, something I got to tell you. And she laid it out. She had been putting them on credit cards. And I said, well, what are the minimums? She had to tell me that they were $450. And like I said, we only had $100 to $200 additional a month. So every month we were going to have to make that choice of mortgage payment or credit card payment. And if we didn't choose credit card, the 17 to 22, 25% interest rates would just pile up on top of each other, and we'd be fucked pretty much forever, right? So very quickly, had to sell the house. I sold it to one of those companies that tossed the signs in the ground, I think, that said, "We buy houses." Called them. And of course, they conveniently sold the house to me for exactly what we owed, to include closing costs, to the fucking penny, strangely enough. So we made nothing on the sale of that house, and probably could have. So it really sucked. And I had to move my family in with my mom. So I had to come back home as a married man with his children to live with my mom, something I didn't plan. And so I blamed my wife for that, and I was so angry at her for that. I wasn't angry at the person that I should have been angry at, which was me, because I wanted to be an ostrich and put my head in the financial sand because I was a coward and I didn't want to own up to taking responsibility for the money. I thought just bring home the bacon and let the wife fry it up in the pan, the financial pan. But I left her alone. So she dealt with it like a rock star, alone. But she did make a mistake. And then she compounded that mistake by not telling me. And then she compounded a little bit more by letting it go for months. But at the root of it, that was my fault. That was my failure. I left her alone. In a sense, I fucked her over. It doesn't make it right, no, what she did by being deceptive and lying and holding on to it. And it cost us a lot. And it bred a lot of resentment in me toward her. But that's her reaction to the situation that she was put in by me. I will not, under any circumstances, bash my wife fully in that way. I don't want to bash her at all in any of these diary conversations. I want this podcast to still be a therapeutic outlet for me. I want to record things as they're happening because I have a big problem with forgetting the things that happen to me. I have a big habit and problem of forgetting how people do fuck me over. And even if I make a mistake, if I were to rewind, even if I make a mistake, and I'm very fearful, first off, thanks to therapy and just time, it's not really therapy, but it's growing up as a man, because I was a very young man in my 20s, very early 20s, when this happened with the finances. So just getting older, one, I have more finances now. I have more of them. So I don't fear my money situation like I used to. So that's one thing. If I were to be in a relationship again, I now understand the hold that I need to have over my financial present and future. And I would not drop that weight on the back of my wife. I wouldn't. Hey, you pay all the bills. No, everything's going to be set up with auto pay. I'll check my accounts. It'll be done. Be done for. It's fine. Won't leave her alone, stranded. And I would pick a person that could hopefully very easily say, to me when they find themselves in a tough situation, like, oh, hey, before, just want you to know that the bills kind of came in a little bit, we're a little bit light this month. I would like to know that I'm with someone that that feels like no matter what, I'm going to say something to you now, because they don't want that snowball to roll downhill and get bigger and bigger and bigger until finally it hits the little lodge at the bottom and fucking demolishes it. I want to make sure that I pick a better person that doesn't find being covert or deceptive as comforting, because that is just an honest assessment of my wife. I've watched her now for too long. She is just one of those people that very much is comfortable not telling you all of the information. She is very comfortable in leaving very important details out, and coincidentally, it's usually details that don't make her look great. So knowing that, this is a very easy divorce decision to make. I wasn't always there. I was of the mindset before I started recording these things and these diary entries and talking them through and understanding, wow, you have done these things from the beginning. I have always responded in unhealthy ways, or I responded with resentment, or I responded with contempt, and then I spoke to you in disrespectful ways. You responded in disrespectful ways, as you should have, because you were disrespected, and it's just a cycle and a self-fulfilling prophecy of toxicity, and it just comes down to, you know what? These two people shouldn't be together, and in my situation, I am honestly being honest in my therapy sessions. I'm being honest with myself, I'm being honest to my children, which has me estranged from them because they're telling me the things that I did that were shitty things to them. And I'm like, fuck, you're right. I'm so damn sorry. I hope that one day you forgive me and allow me back in your life, because I'm going to really try to never do that again to you. I'm so fucking sorry. That's me. My wife, different breed of person. Nope, I didn't do anything. We're going to buy this. We're not going to talk about it. We're going to act like it doesn't exist. Or what she has been doing is, I'm going to tell you how bad your dad is. I'm going to talk about him behind his back. I'm going to leave out parts of the story that really help make this story make him look really, he already looks bad in the story, but if I leave these other parts out, it makes him look even bad, even more worse, and it makes me look even better. And that's okay. The sooner I decouple from my wife, the sooner I never speak to her again unless it's absolutely necessary, the better. Because I believe over time that the truth will prevail. I don't know if it will, but I'm saying I believe it will. And eventually, everyone tends to move away from the toxic person. And right now, my kids definitely do. They really shouldn't move away from me. I'm going to be fair about that. They shouldn't. But based on what they've been told and what they believe, they should move away from me. Because if they believe that I'm an abominable snowman, I'm an absolute ogre, they should move away from me. But if they were, and hopefully as they mature, they can say, he is a good person. He did his best. He tried his best. I see why he stayed with mom. I see why things probably didn't work out with them. I also see her for who she is now. And, I'm going to be able to accept both of them. And I feel that they should all want to see both of their mom and dad. But I wouldn't be surprised ultimately in the end if they limited their communications with their mom, because they would have accepted the fact that she's very deceptive and she's not forthcoming. And it's not because, I want them to not have a relationship with their mom. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I don't want my children to have a relationship with anyone that they feel they cannot trust. Don't have a deep relationship with anyone who you can't trust. If they talk about other people behind their back, they will talk about you behind yours, because that's how those people operate, and it usually doesn't have a boundary. And that's my mom. My mom is always speaking about other people behind their backs. And then she'll go and talk to that person to talk about other people behind their back to that person who she was also talking about behind their back. Cycle repeats. And I get it. We all want to talk about things and we all want to connect, but we're all not being very responsible for things. We're not responsible. And we don't care about what our irresponsibilities are going to do and how they're going to affect other people. Most of us are out to protect number one. And that's what I understand now. I always would throw myself under the bus. But I would also throw other people under the bus, not realizing that I was doing that. Then I'm like, fuck, I just threw somebody under the bus. Did I really? Shit, I'm sorry. Like the financial thing with my wife, with the mortgage payments. I threw her under the bus for so many years. Your fault, all your fault. Now, yeah, the lie part was all your fault. The deceptive part was all your fault. Keeping it from me for that long was all your fault, because you had the information that part can't be my fault. But I likely created an environment, at least for my wife, where I didn't do the necessary things to make her feel so comfortable and make her feel like she was married to someone that had no boundaries around communication. Oh, whatever you want to talk about, babe, tell me. No matter how painful, we can get through it. I may have said those things from time to time with my words, But obviously, I didn't really mean it, because I didn't go through what a man needs to go through to really make his wife feel comfortable about talking to him. I didn't reassure her that there's not going to be any blowback. I'm not going to hate you. I'm not going to... No. Don't you worry. You let me handle these problems. Bring them to me. Lay them at my feet, and I got you, babe. I didn't do that. I wasn't that husband, and she and every other fucking woman needs that husband that's going to make their woman feel like she can come to them with any problem she has. Because if she feels like she can't, trust me, she's going to go to someone else or other things, whether it be food, a person, a new job, back to college, a spin class, an affair. It doesn't matter. She's going to find some sort of outlet to, like we said at the beginning of the podcast, to soothe herself, to soothe her trauma. She will find a way to soothe herself. So you've got to let your wife know that you will not do anything to make her trauma worse, but you are there to soothe her. Soothe her. That's the way to be a really good husband. Be a soft place for her to land emotionally, because who else is going to do it?
Wow! That was the Divorce Diaries podcast. The Daily Saga will continue tomorrow. The full season's episodes are on Patreon now. Subscribe for early access. Click the Patreon link in the description. Hopefully, these entries help our anonymous recorder as a form of his own personal therapy. That's his hope and his intention. Will these recordings of life's curveballs lead this family to the best resolution in the end? We'll keep listening. New episodes are released daily on all podcast players, but all episodes are available on Patreon at Divorce Diaries Podcast Patreon page. Until next time.